It's an honor to be here. I have done a lot of speeches in my life, but never a graduation speech. So this is a first for me. And like Don said, this is a very huge moment for South Baldwin Christian Academy, our first graduating class. And I hope these graduates, I know they will, look back in years to come and look at what that school has done and what it's achieved and how much it's grown. I want to tonight talk about, or not tonight, this evening, talk about some key things that made a huge difference in my life, because I was right where you guys were sitting in 1990 at Fairhope High School. I remember that most people think of graduation as a transformation into adulthood. This is where you go from being a child to not having much responsibility to you're on your own, or you're in college, and it's a big marking point. The problem is you guys probably feel no more like an adult right now than you did 6 months ago, and yet you're fixing to go into this big world, you think, and what's going to change, what's going to happen. And I think by sharing my story with you, it'll give you some good elements and keys to success. I think that will go with you. So let me back up and go over some things. One, my picture of an adult when I was a kid was that as an adult, you were in total control, that you knew how to make things happen. You could have a conversation about anything with anybody in total confidence, that you were just extremely smart, and you just basically had no fear of anything. Well, the fact is, guys, that's not a real picture of an adult whatsoever. There are so many more things that we can't control than we can control, and that's one thing you got to realize early in life. And this is really where a big part where God comes in to play an important role in your life from here on out. So backing up, when I was growing up young, I struggled with ADD. Now back in those days, nobody really diagnosed it. You just had something wrong with you, or you just struggled, or you just weren't very smart. Maybe you were dumb. I'm not sure. That's simply the way I felt. My problem was I daydreamed excessively. I mean, to the point where I wasn't in class at all. I may have been sitting there, but I was somewhere else having the time of my life. And I remember in 4th grade, there were 3 of us, and the teacher would basically give us a document at the end of the day to take home that told us what we were supposed to do for homework. And it was pretty much everything, probably everything everybody else did in class that we didn't do. And I remember often, too, showing up in class and never having a pencil. Or the teacher says, okay, get ready to take a test. And I'm like, oh my God, a test today? Because I had no idea. I didn't remember. And you know how nervous that you are in class, you have no pencil, and you ask people and nobody will loan you one? I did this every day, it seems like. I remember, too, when going into middle school, and we had to start changing class like 6 times a day. I've got to keep up with 6 different classes and which one comes next. I never forget it. In the 5th period, I went outside to be picked up. Well, nobody's there. It's not the end of the day yet, you know. And this was the best I could do. I also remember being very slow at reading. I mean, I was way behind. I know in 6th grade behind other people. And to this day, I'm not that fast, to be honest. So these things basically, this is my theory anyway, led to me having extremely low self-esteem. I'm talking below dirt, very unworthy. I was very shy. I was very quiet. Why? Because I was scared to talk to someone because they're going to say something wrong or something stupid and be made fun of. I didn't really go much into sports, probably very much because of the same thing. Scared of failure. And not throwing the ball good enough or not catching it or messing up and being criticized. You know how there's awards in school you get. And there's the most popular, the best dressed. If there would have been an award for the nobody, who's most likely to do nothing in life and to be a no one, I would have got that award. I'm telling you what. I was the opposite of the popular kids. I was nothing. I was invisible, and I really pretty much felt like I wanted to be that way. I remember later on in life, much later, this is well after high school, I read a book on self-esteem. And this is one thing they described of how it feels to have low self-esteem. You feel like an imposter, a fake, that's in hiding, and that at any time someone is going to call you out and expose who you really are or what you're really not, basically. That's me paraphrasing, and that described me perfectly. And that's why I was shy. That's why I was scared to talk too much or expose myself to anyone or to hopefully not ever get called out. Some of that ADD still lives on today. That's why I have an outline, by the way. Because if I didn't have this, we may end up all over the place. In 8th grade, finishing up high school, I really finally began to have a personal walk with the Lord of my own, a real one. Not just attending church as a kid, but truly a walk with God. Began to get involved in a youth group. And one thing I learned, and my mom taught me, was, and the Bible says you can pray for wisdom and knowledge and ask God to give it to you. Well, I needed it worse than anybody. So I consistently prayed and asked God to bless me with that. And I want you to know, through high school all the way through, I did A's and B's. I think I got 1 C. You know what it was in? Driver's ed. Of all things, driver's ed. A bunch of puppies ran out in the road and I wouldn't run them over. And I hit the brakes too quick and they gave me a C. That's all I can remember I did wrong. Anyway, I could harp about that a while, but I'll get off that subject. So things were beginning to happen because I was praying for God to move in my life. But I still absolutely had no self-esteem whatsoever, and I was a nobody. We left high school. I had been in the same school since 4th grade through 10th, and we moved from Mississippi to Fairhope, Alabama, up the road not far from here. Left all my friends, started over. Very cliquish school, very hard school to have friends in, and especially a kid that's shy and that feels like a nobody. A lot of money in that town, and it was just pretty much felt probably even more so like a nobody at that point. After graduating, right where you guys are today, instead of going off to college, I attended Faulkner at daytime and mostly at night. Late night classes, the ones you sat through for 5 hours straight, it was ungodly horrible. And I began to work for my father. And God began to open doors. And this opened doors really at work for me to learn things, for me to expand my abilities for things that would come later in life. One thing that happened was Dad hired a computer consultant to come in and to begin to set up PCs and a network in the office. I would stay late. I would watch everything he did. I would learn and ask every question I could. I began to read books on PCs, how to fix PCs, how to install software on PCs, and put the time and effort, and honestly became extremely good at it over time. God would even sometimes show me something that didn't make no sense of how to fix a computer, and I would do it, and it would work. And remember, this is back in the days when there were a lot more problems. This is back in the days of DOS and Windows 3.1, and it was somewhat of a mess. I also had the opportunity to learn accounting. Dad needed someone to do accounting. Nobody in the office knew how. I stepped up and learned it. Learned to the point of detailed journal entries, and I became very, very good at it. Networking, doing course design and layout, basically doing payroll and doing marketing, relational databases. The point here is, if you pray and ask God to open doors, He will. But the key is you have to go through them. You have to push yourself and learn things you don't know. Be willing to pay the price. Be willing to study. Be willing mostly to learn on your own. Don't be waiting for someone to teach you everything in life or to go to a class somewhere to learn it. You can get books. You can find anything on the web. You have to be willing to learn stuff on your own. And this generation knows that more than anybody. That, though, will take you a long ways in life. One of my huge, huge fears was speaking. And I'm doing it here today, and that's something. I speak a lot now, actually, mostly in front of people that work for me, which makes it easier. You guys don't. So I have no control over what you might do. It's kind of scary. I remember that in the 9th grade, I believe, I got asked to speak. I was required to present a project for the class. I think it was in chemistry or something. I begged my teacher so much and convinced her that if I had to speak, I would pretty much probably die in front of the class. I would fall out dead from a heart attack. I would choke. I wouldn't be able to talk. It'd be humiliating. I did it so well, she let me out of it. And I remember one of the kids going, well, when's Robert going to get him? I just wanted to say, shut up. So that was one of the biggest fears of my life. Later on in adulthood, I remember getting asked to speak at an accreditation conference. This is the accreditor that accredits Columbia Southern. I'm like, oh my good Lord, I got to speak in front of these people that are so much smarter and better than I am. But I said yes. I knew it's something I had to do. In life, a lot of times you're going to have to push through fears. I got up there, I spoke, I was nervous, I was uncomfortable, but I did it anyway, and over time, the nervousness went away. I learned something too. I read a book on speaking once. I think it's a really, really good point. And it's that, and this comes up, I think, a lot in life and applies. You're going to face challenges and things are going to scare you. You're not going to feel confident about them. but that's natural. Just like speaking, if you try to push the fear away, okay, I got to calm down. Let me breathe. It's got to go away. You will further make yourself nervous and hinder yourself more. You just have to say, I'm going to be scared. That's the way my body's going to react. That's the way I'm going to feel. That's the way other people feel, but I'm going to get up and do it anyway. That way you don't let it hold you back. You don't let it make you more nervous. You basically just push through it and ignore it and accept that it's going to be there. And again, today I speak all the time, and sometimes it still makes me nervous. This kind of makes me nervous somewhat. Well, as life went on, God began to transform me. I no longer was that same person that some of you here knew back in high school when I graduated, when I was sitting where you guys are sitting today. I no longer was that shy. I no longer was that quiet. I ended up being a very, very strong leader, take charge person, and who would have ever in the world thought? Last person anybody would think that would be running anything. That would be running a small car wash, anything, much less a university. But this is because God put opportunities before me to grow me. I went through them, I pushed through the fears, and experienced my experience, I transformed. And one thing I want you to know is that God sees you completely different than you are today and how you see yourselves. The fact is that your perspective is very, very limited, and that's okay. That's where you are right now. But as you leave here and as you go through your next steps in life, you're going to grow, you're going to mature, and then in 5 years from now, you're going to look back and go, my gosh, I have transformed and become someone completely different than I was. So don't expect today to feel like that person that's ready to go out in the world and take it over and take charge. Some of us don't feel that way to this day, to be honest. I felt like I was an adult when I turned 40. That was last year. Finally felt confident that, I think I'm there. I'm mature. I know stuff. I'm pretty confident I can talk to about anybody. 40 years old. So if you don't feel confident today, that's okay, guys. Don't worry about it. You will grow. Just allow yourself to be stretched. This is what you have to do. Allow yourself to be uncomfortable. Eventually, I became my father's second in command, running pretty much all the day-to-day operations of Columbia Southern. In 2005, Dad got sick and passed away. I was only 34 years old. This was a very, very scary time. Not so much that, running the day-to-day operation of the school, but I, by all means, wasn't the person in charge. I always had someone to fall back on. I felt way too young to be a university president, which I should. Who the heck's ever heard of one at 34? I don't know of anybody. CSU was around about 7,000 students, 50 to 75 maybe full-time employees, faculty, and staff. And I knew I had to do what needed to be done, and I stepped up and took over and pushed myself through a very uncomfortable situation. I felt inadequate, and I think most people at the time were worried about their jobs and what was going to happen. I don't really blame them a whole lot. And then I'd often get this comment, man, you're really young to be president. And I'd make sure I never bought anything from those people, by the way. That always annoyed me so much. One thing for sure, though, it put me in a very humble state. And my whole life I've been that way. And I've learned God likes you to be that way. He wants to be in control and you to be dependent upon Him. And that's huge. So the university began to move forward. I prayed and sought God's direction every day. Always gave God credit for every success I had because I knew it wasn't me, it was Him. If I succeeded in anything, that shy, quiet kid who was a nobody, it had to be God. I've got to find my place on the outline here. Where in the world did I end up? I also learned, I learned this huge lesson in life, in that you have to listen to the Holy Spirit. You have to listen to when you don't have peace or when you do have peace. And many times in the business, I'd have a situation in front of me at the school that made total logical sense. There was no reason not to go forward in this route or make this decision, but I had no peace about it. And the times I pushed forward anyway, I later found out why I didn't have no peace. The fact is, you don't have all the facts in front of you when you make a decision. You don't know the things you don't know and what may be going to happen. And you have to learn in life, especially in the big decisions, the important ones, to listen to that voice. And later I would always find out why I didn't make the decision and why you can't rely on logic, on your own thinking of, okay, well, this is the right decision. You can't always do it. Pray and ask God. He show you, He impress upon you what to do, and He will. So going forward, in 2005 and 2006 areas, we led the university through reaccreditation. In 06 and 07, we went through a process to take it to the government level of audits, which was unbelievably difficult. And this was done so that we could seek approval to participate in federal financial aid. That came in 2008, a huge, horrendous effort. And these are all things that I didn't have the ability to do. I wasn't smart enough to do them. But God stepped in and showed me what to do, how to do it, and gave me understanding of things well beyond my normal comprehension. Back around 08, we purchased 20 acres and built a 67,000 square foot building. Again, this school just kept growing. It kept being blessed. God kept giving me favor and us favor and the family favor with people and organizations and in everything we touched and did. You know why? Because we honored God in everything we touched and did. And what we did, we always gave Him credit. We publicly would acknowledge we are here and successful because God is a part of it and has blessed it. In 2009, I did a very unusual thing and led an effort to acquire a traditional college over 100 years old, full athletics, full fine art programs, dorms, the whole thing. And we acquired that school to turn it around and take it forward. This project and many others were near impossible. But God would step in and clear the way, and obstacles that we didn't think could be done would be done. In 2012, and then, step back again. This is a shy kid, right? That's a nobody. In 2012, I ended up in a meeting where we confronted the U.S. Fire Administrator, who's over the National Fire Academy, about why they weren't accepting our students into a certain program. And we were able to get a senator and 4 very, very powerful congressmen to sit in that meeting with us and confront him. And here I am, the one supposed to lead this conversation, and I'm thinking, oh my God, who am I to do this? You talk about scary. That blows this away, by the way, as far as on the fear level factor. But God stepped in, led me to what to say and what to do. And here are these people that make decisions about our national defense, by the way, in this room. This was the first time Senator Session had ever come to Congressman Bonner's office, and he'd been there 10 years for this meeting that we asked for. It was beyond logic of how this could happen. And that meeting resulted in a successful victory, by the way. This is just examples I'm wanting to share with you because you're going to have mountains and obstacles in your life that are insurmountable, that can't be moved. If you follow God and honor Him and ask He step in, He will move those mountains. This year, we had a situation in Florida. Ended up having to go the legal route with it. It was impossible. People deemed there's no way you're going to win this one. And we did. It took time, but we did. God moved in it, opened doors, and we won. Today, CSU employs 456 or 7 full-time faculty and staff, over 500 part-time faculty, over 30,000 students actively enrolled. It's an unbelievably huge organization that reaches students all across the nation. In 2011, when they last published the rankings of schools that serve the military, we ranked number 8. That was about 6 places above Troy University, by the way. That is a God thing. That is impossible for a country boy, and it's a good old family from Mississippi to ever pull off, by the way. And God has seen us through that in so many things. So in closing, I want to just to wrap up some points I've shared with you already. God sees way more potential in you than you ever see in yourself, probably, and don't limit yourself to the perspective you have of who you are today. Allow God to stretch you. Allow yourself to be stretched. Don't let fear or lack of confidence slow you down. Always just push through it. Join the club. The rest of us, we have fear. We're scared of stuff. We're nervous about things every single day. We're a whole lot older than you are. Know that you are worthy to be happy, to have happiness, and to be successful and have a blessed life, just as much as anyone else. Listen to the Holy Spirit. Listen to how you feel. Listen to that peace, when you don't have it or when you do have it. Logic will often fail you in lots of decisions. Remain humble and give God the credit for the successes you have in life. And by all means, keep yourself in a position to be dependent upon Him, that you're not in total control, that you're not going to make everything happen, but with Him you can. And most of all, if you consistently, and this is biblical, if you consistently honor God with your life and follow Him, whether you're up or down, in other words, when you succeed and when you make it big and when things are going wonderful, if you don't forget Him, He will continue to bless you and you will keep going forward. Thank you. Congratulations.